Philippine history, the propaganda movement, La Solidaridad, and La Liga Filipina. Reform movement, precursor to revolution. Execution of Gomborza, significant turning point of the Philippine history in the formation of the reform movement. Reform movement, popularly known as propaganda movement. It employs peaceful means in campaigning for the reform of the Philippines. This organization was led by the triumvirate of Filipino Ilustrado, which are Dr. Jose Rizal, Marcelo del Pilar, and Garciana Lopez Haina. Primary aim of the movement is the assimilation of the Philippines to Spain or making Philippines a province of Spain. The Ilustrados led by Dr. Jose Rizal, Marcelo H. del Pilar, and Garciana Lopez Haina organized the propaganda movement, which was a peaceful crusade for reforms. These patriots were called propagandists because they waged their movement by means of pen and tongue to expose the defects of Spanish rule in the Philippines and the urgency of reforms to remedy them. Aims of propaganda movement: equality of Filipinos and the Spaniard before the law, assimilation of the Philippines as a regular province of Spain, restoration of Philippines' representation in the Cortes, the law-making body of Spain, Philippinization of Philippine parishes, individual liberties of the Filipinos. Three groups that form the nucleus of the reform movement. 1. Group of suspected filibusteros, including Creoles and Spanish mestizos, in the wake of the Cavite Mutiny of 1872. 2. Young men sent to Spain for their studies just like Rizal. 3. Refugees who left Philippines to escape persecution like Gina and Del Pilar. 10 names of the reformists. Rizal used the pen name Laong Laang when he was a contributor of poems and articles for the Spanish newspaper La Solidaridad. Laong Laang was the name of the railway station in Manila. He also used the pen name Limas Alang when he served as correspondent of the same Spanish newspaper La Solidaridad. Others who contributed to La Solidaridad and used pen names were Mariano Ponce, who used the aliases Tikbalang, Naning Kalipulaco, Antonio Luna as Tagailog, Marcelo H. del Pilar as Plaridel, and last, Jose Maria Panganiban as Jumapa. Underlying factors to the Philippine Revolution. First, the Masonry and Reform Movement. Masonry and Reform Movement. Masonry played a vital role in the Reform Movement. Filipino Masonic lodges were center of the Reform Movement as well as the source of needed funds to support the campaign for reform. Serrano Lactao founded Lodge Nilad on January 6, 1892 in Manila, the first Masonic lodge in the Philippines recognized by the Grand Oriente Español of Spain, Spanish Mother Lodge. Rosario Villarreal, the first woman Mason who became member of Lodge Walana on July 18, 1893. Next, underlying factors is Hispano-Filipino Association. Hispano-Filipino Association, composed of Filipino and Spaniards who endorsed the granting of reform in the Philippines. Miguel Moraita, the president, and Felipe de la Corte, the vice president, facilitated the work of the society to make the movement work immediately. Last underlying factors was the La Liga Filipina. La Liga Filipina was founded on July 3, 1892 in Tondo. Rizal was living at Hong Kong at the time, but still he conceived the idea of establishing a civic association composed of Filipinos. He called it La Liga Filipina or Philippine League. He wrote its constitution with the help of Matias Basa, a Spanish mestizo, an exile of 1872. After finishing the constitution, he returned to Manila. Aims of La Liga Filipina are to unite the archipelago into one compact, homogeneous, and vigorous body, mutual protection in every want and necessity, defense against all violence and injustice, encouragement of education, agriculture, and commerce, and last, study and application of reform. Liga was ceased its existence because of the deportation of Rizal to the Pitan, and the members are tired of paying. Rizal exile to the Pitan proved to be the swan song of the propaganda movement. The La Liga Filipina collapsed. The radical Andres Bonifacio and other radical members separated from it, for they were disenchanted by the peaceful campaign. Result: former members of the movement polarized into two groups. 1. The poor radicals sided with Bonifacio and formed KKK, a secret society. 2. The conservative intellectual middle class formed the Cuerpo de Compromisarios, or pledged to continue their support to the propaganda. Andres Bonifacio, a member of La Liga Filipina, did not join the compromisarios, who were conservative, intellectual, and affluent merchants, because he was both poor and a man of action and radical views. He firmly believed that the happiness and welfare of the Filipino people could not be achieved by peaceful requests for reforms, but by violent revolution. Results and significance of the propaganda movement. Causes of the failure of the propaganda movement. Spain was preoccupied of its internal problem. Friars were too powerful even in Spain to sidetrack by Spanish authorities. No sufficient funds to carry out their aims. Lack of funds at Leopardas, the publication of Soli. And last, lack of unity among the propagandists. Even though the propaganda movement failed, but the ideas of freedom and justice which it sowed paid the ground for the Philippine Revolution that the Katipunan and Andres Bonifacio significance of the propaganda movement. Work of the propagandists stimulates the people to revolt. Copies de la Solidaridad and Rizal's novel reached local illustrados who came to lead the revolutionary forces of their province. Attempt of the government to stop the entry of the propaganda materials highlight the lack of freedom that the propagandists were condemning. Propagandist outputs were a reflection of reality, thus the articulation of feelings heightened the fervor of the people. Last, since the failure leads to the establishment of Katipunan with separatist aim, therefore, the reform movement was a success. Thank you. That's all for